All right, you all go to withoutyourhead.com. I'll come over there and put my boot up in your ass.
All right, we're back. We welcome Charles Band from Full Moon Movies, Full Moon Features. Welcome to
Full Moon Feature.
Without Your Head. Did I get
How's
it right?
going? Thanks for having me on the show. That's great.
Thanks for coming on. I'm going to let everybody know you can check out the websites, of course, fullmoondirect.com and fullmoonfeatures.com.
Yep. Yeah, so fullmoondirect.com is probably the better one because that's sort of where you can see more stuff and buy stuff if you're interested. And
buying stuff, that's always the best website. That's the best website to plug, right? There's something I always notice about your movies. It's not in all movies, obviously, but you use a lot of small, like, monsters. Is that something that scared you? That scares you?
It's a combination of things. Practical, because who can afford to build a huge monster? Small things did creep me out a bit, but I also find them fascinating. And it's interesting that in all these years that I've made all these films, whether it's the Puppet Master series or Dolls or Doll Man or Demonic Toys, no one else has really done it. I mean, it's just, you'd think of, I don't know, imitation, and I mean, there's 1,000 different spins on slasher movies, but no one's really gotten into the creepy 12-inch dolls and puppet films. I mean, there's the occasional film that comes out, but not too many. So it's and my thought was always, much like the way Marvel Comics teamed up their superheroes and supervillains. One day I sort of pit all these characters against each other, and I started to do that a bit back in the early days of Full Moon, and that's definitely part of the plan. So. Tim Thomerson come back as Doll Man, although a little older now, and kick some puppet ass would be cool.
Right. After all the same size, it makes it a lot easier.
Exactly.
Maybe they can even fight an evil bong in one of the films.
Or they can be smoking the evil bong,
Right.
That's an option there. No, that's true. Evil bong. God.
Well, how did you get Tommy Chong for that movie?
He called up his agent. He's such a great guy. I mean, what happened to this guy is just amazing. The fact that he spent that much time in a federal prison for what? I mean, we're incensed over big issues. There's not enough time to think about, what happens to, people like Tommy Chong, who, has made no, I mean, he hasn't hid the fact that he's been a pothead forever. That's his deal,
Right.
And the fact that he was involved with a company that shipped some stupid glass bongs and they put him in a federal prison, it's crazy. But anyway, he liked the material. It's a fun project, and he turns a lot of stuff down. He's actually made very few movies other than the Cheech and Chong films. But I was shocked. I thought, let's give it a try, thinking, okay, maybe we'll get his brother Jimmy Chong, but I doubt Tommy's going to come on board. And he accepted, and it was great. He only worked 2 days, but that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it makes for an excellent poster too.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Now, I was going to ask if there's any plans to sell those, but I guess you don't want.
Sorry?
Was there any plans to sell any evil bongs? Any replicas?
Yeah, you can go right now and buy bong replicas. That are definitely non-functioning.
Right.
All the
you don't
time.
want to end up in a federal prison.
No slammer. Yeah. So no, that was a very, very fun show, and working with Tommy was great. He's just a super good guy. He's just. And he's a lot of people are kind of what you would imagine. I mean, I work with Gary Busey in a movie called The Ginger Deadman about an evil, pissed-off cookie.
Right.
And Gary is that way, and he's freaky. He's crazy, and he's a challenge to work with. He's immensely talented, but he's not a different persona in real life. That is the way he is. Whereas Tommy is very laid back and he's done it. He's a total pro.
Mm-hmm. I think one of our fans actually asked that how crazy was it to work with him.
Gary?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's crazy. I don't know how how much we can say on the air, or if we can say anything we want.
Yeah, you can say anything you want to hear.
All right. No, he brings something amazing to the table because it's not at all what's in the script, and you sort of have to corral and make sure you get at least enough to stitch it together to have a scene that makes some kind of sense. But what he gives you is just stuff you've never thought about. I mean, I must have, for the opening scene of the movie is maybe a 2-minute scene. I probably have 40 minutes of him going off on crazy shit. Just stream of consciousness. I mean, crazy stuff. I don't know how I'll ever use it. And I had to pluck out the moments that sort of, kind of help my story
right.
see what it is. But no, he's very talented and very, very out there.
Mm-hmm. Did you put any of that on the special features DVD?
Not really, because it's just so crazy. I mean, it's almost like a little bit, but it's it's hard to describe, and it would be it's almost like enough stuff to build another movie around. A real weird one, for sure.
Did you ever think, when you started making the movies, did you ever think there would be a market for like toys-based off horror movies?
Not in the beginning. I mean, I love all that stuff. I mean, I'm a collector. I'm a comic book collector. I collect all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, I get it. And when that sort of became something that I thought would be fun to do, I did it more just because it'd be cool to make toys. And all of a sudden it became, a little part of the business. I mean, it's still, there was a moment years ago when we were producing tens of thousands of your standard posable, 7 to 9 inch little action figures from all the Puppet Master characters. And for a brief moment of time, it was profitable. It was amazing. I thought, oh my God, this is better than making movies. And then that sort of evaporated because everyone got involved and everyone got inside that business, and there was too much stuff and too many variants, and it just became glutted and turned a lot of people off. And so now it's more like a very limited edition of, we'll make 500 evil bongs, and sell those on our site and at conventions. And it's part of the fun. It's not necessarily a big money maker, but at least it kind of it's fun. It works,
Yeah.
People who enjoy, like right now we've got these super limited edition replica puppets from Puppet Master we're doing very slowly because they're all handmade. So, it's basically from the same mold that let's say the first two were Blade and Pinhead from the Puppet Master series. So,
awesome.
But they're $200. They're all handmade. The costumes are all sewn by hand, and they're real hard to produce, and we're only doing 200 of them. They're all numbered. So, I mean, that's fun and extremely limited. It's not something you can go buy for, $9.98.
Right. And
it's cool.
Aren't they like the same size replica? They're
exactly that.
Yeah. That's cool.
So that's just sort of a collector's thing, but it's fun. It's fun going to the shows, and people come up and they bring things that I completely forgotten I was involved in, and old posters and weird old VHS boxes, and just promotional items that were done like too many decades ago, and the fans of movies like Laser Blast made in the late 70s and Tourist Trap, and just it's weird.
Does it make you feel like I don't know, proud of your career? Well, I was going to say proud of your career that people would.
Well, I live in complete denial. I still think I'm in my 20s, and that's how I behave. So it's weird when people come up who I think look older than me, and they talk about watching my movies when they were little kids.
Right. That
kind of pisses me off. But no, it's great. It's just to have this whole body of work, 270 odd movies, and it's fun, especially at the convention. So much so, and I've done this roadshow now 2 years in a row where I've gone to 20 cities, and I've put on this kind of crazy, act, and I do stuff on stage. It's interactive. I show clips from movies. It's sort of just like a bizarre Ozfest. I don't even know how to describe it. And I finally this year was sort of convinced by some really great people I met in Little Rock, Arkansas, because I actually shot a movie there just a few months ago, to put on a full moon horror convention and film festival. So we're actually doing that this October.
Yeah, October 26th to the 28th.
And it's going to be huge. I mean, it's not just a little deal in a hotel. I mean, we've got the downtown convention center. We think we may have as many as 300 to 400 submissions for films, which is the film festival side of the event. And then the convention will be the usual craziness and celebrities, and have some real surprise heavyweight guests who have promised they'll show up, schedule permitting. And then there'll be the usual crazy horror, icons who attend all these shows and will be there to greet people. And then there'll be, of course, there's all sorts of stuff. I mean, the normal things you see at, horror conventions, and some things that maybe you've never seen. So it's become kind of a big deal, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And they're expecting between 15 and 20,000 people. So that's kind of crazy, too.
Yeah, that's, everyone check out the website. It's fullmoonhorrorshow.com.
Well, the site is actually fullmoonconvention.com.
Oh, okay.
The one you just mentioned works, too, but I don't think the site's going to be up for another few days. They're just putting the final touches on it. But if anyone goes to our site, they can link through in a few days.
There's the MySpace is up, though, if everyone check out the MySpace.
Yeah, there's some stuff up on MySpace. But no, it's going to be totally fun. And I've attended enough conventions as a guest speaker. And, of course, I've done my roadshow now, 40, 50 cities, so I think we're putting something together the fans will enjoy. So, you know, when this is kind of a long answer to your question. When I first started, I just wanted to make my movies, and you know, the movies were screened in a movie theater. You know, there was no concept of, you know, video or DVD or any of that. It was just you made a movie, and you hope you could book it in enough theaters to make a few bucks, and you would sit in a theater with people and be happy when people, you know, enjoyed something or applauded, or embarrassed when they, you know, made bad sounds. And
right.
you know, that was my early movie experience. And now it's become, you know, it's just all sorts of different delivery systems, and you know, you need download and VOD and pay-per-view and DVD, and now there's the whole merchandise side of it. So yeah, it's definitely it's a trip.
Do you collect the props yourself? You know, the actual props from the films?
Yeah, I've over the years I've kept stuff. I've sold stuff recently on eBay. You know, I mean, I've got definitely things that I wouldn't sell just because they date back, you know, many years. But I mean, there's so much of it. I need like warehouses full. I mean, there's just so much. Every movie has, you know, and then in most cases, the effect, the puppet or the doll, there's usually anywhere from 3 to many as 7 or 8 copies, because they each will perform a different, you know, stunt. I mean, today we're in a world of CGI. It's a little different, but I still use, you know, live puppets and organic effects that actually you can put it in the scene. So, you know, they're built by the effects guys to have different functions. So in the case of, I don't know, Torch from Puppet Master, you know, there's a torch that will snap its jaws and look around. There's a torch where the eyes will kind of glow. Then there's a torch that will actually spit, you know, 15 feet of flame, you know, which is hooked up to a blowtorch. So in many cases, there are multiple props, and times all the movies, it's like a lot.
Now, that's probably not a figure you want to put out, though, one that actually throws flame.
John would buy it.
Yeah.
That's his favorite.
Yeah, well, again, you know, anyone who watches that particular Puppet Master 2, the behind the scenes are fascinating, because, you know, what it took just to get that 1 or 2 shots where the torch raises its arm and shoots a stream of flame. Again, we weren't back then in the world of CGI where you could put all that stuff in a computer. We really had to go do it. So you had fire marshals, you had, you know, all sorts of equipment in case, you know, we messed up. And then, of course, you had you know, in one case, the gal who gets caught on fire, and she's in a suit. And then you have all the effects guys holding different pieces of the puppet. And then you have, of course, the flamethrower, and then flame retardants. I mean, it was insane. All for a shot that probably lasts 3 seconds of the movie.
Right.
I love the line that's actually in that movie before that scene takes place. It's, I'm the director, do something.
Hey, I forget half of this, so I'm glad you.
Oh, okay.
We actually get a caller here from Portugal.
Indeed, you have.
You're on there with Charles Band. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Even though I'm not a big expert on horror movies, I've seen a couple of them, and I wanted to ask you if you, in terms of, if you could compare horror movies from the U.S. with Japan. I don't know if you saw it. How do you compare the style of horror movies that they do in, you know, both in America and Japan?
I couldn't hear the whole thing. How do I compare the style of horror movies in America to Japan?
Right.
Yes.
Yep. You mean some horror movies made in Japan?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Well, they're very different. I mean, it's man, that's a good question there.
Thank you.
You know, Japanese film and anime, it's just a different genre almost. And I think, you know, we've sort of remade a bunch of well-known Japanese horror films into very successful, you know, Western horror films. I'm not a big fan of the remake anyway. I think that's kind of a shame. But you know, it's just I'm not going to answer your question because I'm not even a good spokesman on telling you exactly what I think the difference is. But it's you know, and again, what complicates the answer, if not trying to figure this out, is I'm also, I mean, with exceptions, most of the horror films made today, I think, in this country, are very different from the horror films of 10, 15, 20 years ago, which were more organic and I think more effective. You know, today most horror films are very slick. A lot of them are remakes. They got kind of an MTV vibe. You know, the characters are all kind of GQ, young, hot, you know, model types, and none of that is for me, very effective or appealing. And there are exceptions, but, you know, some of the great horror films from the 70s and 80s, the American horror films, were sort of gritty and real because a lot of the, not just in the way they were directed and made, but the actors that were hired were, more real and more accessible. They weren't these people who just, I'm not putting down people who are making movies today, the young talent that, are in front of the camera, but, they're just too attractive and too slick and too, and the whole thing has become sort of an in-joke, So, I don't know. Again, there are exceptions, and I hear 1408 is terrific. I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
that's great horror films like, The Shining and The Omen and The Exorcist, and then some of the more gritty ones like, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. To me, those are in a class of their own. So if we're talking about comparing those movies to current Japanese horror films, it's one thing. But if you're comparing all the remakes and all the more slick horror films, that all seem to be alike, too.
Yeah.
I mean, every 4 months another one comes out, and this whole new genre of torture horror films is also not personally very appealing. Torture.
I don't like those either.
Do you think? I'm sorry. Do you think that I'll like that? Do you think that from what you've seen from Japanese horror movies, do you think that they go too far in terms of the violence and all that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it depends on the spirit of the movie too. I mean, maybe, it so depends. I don't want to talk about the whole Japanese, horror film industry because that would be wrong. And it depends on the individual film, and how far and what's done in good taste. I mean, I still think, even though I like to be surprised and shocked, and I like twists and turns in a story, and a horror film is supposed to shock you. But there are things that I don't need to see that don't really appeal to me. But I'm more into the fantasy realm anyway. I mean, what more can you see that I mean, today the whole world is fucked up, So I mean, the real horror film is the news every night. It's not so much these movies. So if a film is very close to reality, and you got, I mean, I prefer to see a fantasy character, creature. I prefer to think about all that and get scared on a more almost supernatural level than just see a guy in ski mask cutting up women. That doesn't attract. That's not appealing to me.
Yeah. Thanks for calling in, Nell. Another caller here.
Okay. Hey, what's up, it's Deadman.
Hey, it's Deadman. You're on air with Charles Band. You got a question?
Yeah, I was just curious. I haven't been able to listen to the show live, but I will later. I was just wondering if you had any advice for any up-and-coming filmmakers and stuff, because I'm trying to make a movie myself.
Wow. That is definitely, if not the number one, the number two question I get on the road, no matter where I go, because there's so many people that, have talent and have drive and want to just know how to get involved and how to do it. And since I began making movies, I've tried to answer those questions. Now, not to sound like, okay, I got to direct you to our website, but I did put together a program of clips from maybe 15 years of trying to answer those questions from all sorts of filmmakers, from Roger Corman to Stuart Gordon to Lloyd Kaufman. I mean, a whole bunch of filmmakers and distributors. And I put this program together called Cinemaker, which attempts to answer 1,000,001 practical questions, because film school is great if you can afford it, and understanding how great movies are made, but the practical side of how do you make a film and get it to the market, and God forbid make some money, and not get screwed in the interim, and that cycle is tricky, and the only way you really find out about that is you just jump in. Now I've answered a lot of those questions in the Cinemaker set of DVDs, but the quick answer to this is, if you really are serious about making movies, you need to come to where movies are made, and jump in for free and apprentice and get on a movie set and start understanding what it is. And then at least you'll know, and you may find out that it's not your thing. But if it is your thing and you do a good job, invariably you will move up, and next thing you know, you'll be asked back to do another show, and then by the third show they'll pay you something, and then you'll network with people who are making movies. And that's the only practical way to get involved in the business. I mean, you can go out and make your own movie and borrow money and raise money from friends and family and try to, get it into video stores. I mean, that's a real hard road. And again, it's doable. But if you really want to get involved in the process, you need to come to where movies are made and jump in.
Cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Thanks for calling, Duckman. So that's your plug for Duckman. You can check out his, he's got a little trailer for Duckman vs. Zombies. It's up on our MySpace.
Cool. Excellent. Oh, there's so many, there's so much talent out there, and, and it's just, unfortunately, the world. I mean, hopefully now things with with the imminent future of electronic sell-through and basically the ability to download movies and make money that way. Because look, we all we all want to make films and at least wind up with enough money at the end of the process to make your next movie. I mean, we're all people who love the process, like me. I mean, I'm a film junkie, and there are stretches of time where the world was kind of good to you, like in the early days of video, where there was money and you could make some money and make films, and then there are terrible stretches where you're shut out because you're not making an A movie and that you don't have a $100 million budget, and most of the delivery systems and venues are all owned and controlled by major studios, and we were just coming out of a very long, difficult stretch. There's never been more opportunity in terms of digital gear and low price of admission, and anyone can go out and make a movie and burn a DVD. But to really get it into any kind of serious distribution has been just hasn't happened. So now, if we're close to the time where, much like a song can be downloaded for $1 on iTunes, and if we're in that zone where a movie for $3 or $4 can be downloaded and people can enjoy a horror film and it's an even playing field and people know how to find your movie, that's going to be great, because then the measure of your success will be how many people just dug your film and recommended it and were willing to spend the $3 or $4 to watch your film, and they can burn a DVD at home. And I mean, we're almost at that point, and that to me is exciting because I think that's going to get small independents back into business.
Yeah, because I know even like on demand, they're starting to put some movies on demand on your digital cable at the same time they're released at the theater.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're experimenting with this. So many different ways to do it. The problem, though, is for me. I mean, I've made movies for a long time. In the early days of video, there were literally thousands of small stores, mom and pop, video stores that carried my films, and many of them. I mean, there was one point there was over 1,000 actually had a full moon section, where they just put all my movies, even the ones that predated full moon. Well, those stores are basically gone. They're now we're in a world of Blockbuster and Hollywood and Movie Gallery, and all those chains are considered dinosaurs because we're about to go through a big change. So the biggest complaint I get is, hey, where do I find your movies? My local video store is gone. My Blockbuster only carries the current films. There's no library. Right. How do we find them? And that's the problem. So that's going to hopefully change soon, where someone can just go into a site and go, wow, there's all 270 of them. I kind of remember liking Head of the Family. I'll spend $3. I'll download it and I'll burn a DVD.
Mm-hmm. Someone on our board actually suggested that you make a Head of the Family action figure.
That was a planned for deal. I'd love to do that. We'll see. I'm making a sequel. I hope real soon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's called Bride of the Head of the Family. He meets another big-headed chick, and assuming I make that, then we'll definitely gotta have a head, limited edition action figure.
Yeah, you get Son of the Head after that.
Glaugo from our message board, he actually had a question. He wants to know if there's going to be another Subspecies film.
Well, Subspecies is the most expensive in the full moon years from 1990 to today. That's been the most expensive films and series, and the only thing stopping me from making one immediately is the cost. The original ones we shot all in Transylvania, Romania. They were, for us, big budgeted films. I know there's a lot of fans, and we're going to try real hard to make one next year. And one bit of good news is Anders Hove, who's the amazing actor who played Radu, is going to be at the Full Moon Convention in Little Rock. So will the director, Ted Nicolau, and hopefully Denise Duff. So, we'll have a bit of a Subspecies thing going on, and I just hope we'll find the way and the means to make the next Subspecies. It's already written. It's a great script. It's just very expensive.
He also added that Radu is the best vampire ever.
Well, thanks. Thank you. No, he's great, and the actor who plays him is amazing, and he is he's going to be at the show. He'll be one of the many people appearing at the show.
Cool. You got a call here, El Santo.
Hey, how you doing? All right. Yeah, Mr. Van.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, pretty good. I'm calling from New Orleans. Had a movie y'all filmed here back in 91 or 92. I used to work in a hotel. Y'all filmed the movie Netherworld.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, were you down here when it was filmed? Or?
I really was not, actually. It's one of the few movies that I helped dream it up, and I was involved in the casting and post and all the normal stuff, but I actually was not there. A wonderful director who I've worked with on a number of movies was there doing the show.
Anything else, El Santo?
Yeah, I was just asking if there's any other plans of making some more movies down here in New Orleans, because they're calling us now like the Hollywood of the South now. We're getting a lot.
Right. No, I know. I love. It's such a great place, and I mean, I've been through there many times, not for the movie, but just because you got to go to New Orleans. I'd love to go back and make another show, and I've talked about that many times. So there's no plan right now. Like I can't say we'll be there in November, but we'll get there. It's a great and Netherworld. Again, for a small independent movie, is really rich in its production value, and it's it's a really well appointed film. It's got some great stuff going on that you can never find anywhere else.
Anything else, Santo?
I enjoyed.
There you go.
Thanks, Santo. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for calling in, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for calling in. Along the lines of the comic book, you said you were a comic book fan. Was one of our fans here, Old Hoss, he wanted to know, what is your favorite Jack Kirby creation?
Oh, my God. You hit, like, bullseye. First of all, I knew Jack. I've got some beautiful art hanging in my home that I was fortunate enough to, that Jack actually did. We were going to develop some projects, and then he got ill. But, oh, my goodness. Well, I still love my first love are all the pre-superhero monster stories. All those are great, I've got some of those, and I got some of the art. And even though it's maybe not the most popular, because far more valuable would be a page from Fantastic Four than a page from Fing Fang Foom, or Monster Rosso or Goo Gam, and all those great, monster
Fest
comics.
of the
But I love all
Fetus.
that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I know Troy's our resident comic book fan here. I know he's a big Jack Kirby fan.
Oh yeah. I got the Captain America on the wall.
Oh, that's great. That's great. He's just so talented. He was such a great guy. And, you talking to him, you would just, if you ever met him or heard him speak, you just wouldn't think that he was the Jack Kirby, who pretty much invented just so much of what Star Wars is all Jack Kirby. Darth Vader is Doctor Doom. It's just his legacy is forever. And look what's happening with these comic books that have all now become billion-dollar movie. Huge event. Tentpole movies are now, from most of his creations. Stan Lee's around, who's wonderful and who certainly deserves part of the credit. But everything we saw came out of Jack.
Right.
He was the king.
He was. No, he was, and a great guy, and a very low-key, very unassuming guy. This was not you just wouldn't believe it. You'd sit with him and have dinner with him, and you just go, my God, did he draw that stuff? Thousands of pages, tens of thousands.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Just want to let everybody know that Deadman's Hand comes out July 17th. That's, I guess it's your newest movie with Sid Haig and Michael Parry.
Right, yeah, no, I'm really excited. As a matter of fact, it's out on the 17th, although it's available on some of the pay-per-view systems now, and it's also available now on our site. Actually, tomorrow we have some early copies for the Full Moon fans. Just, again, it's fullmoondirect.com. And I'm real proud of the film, and it's kind of it's nice to do something that no one's done before. So, a haunted casino is a different idea. At least no one's ever told me that they've seen anything like it, so that's cool. And there's a couple of, again, we have a small budget, so we don't have lots and lots of effects, but there's one effect in particular that I'm real happy with that was sort of what inspired the movie in the first place. And of course, working with Sid Haig was great, and Michael Berryman, and great cast of young actors, especially Robin Sidney, who's now done 2 other movies for me. She did Ginger Dead Man and Evil Bong, and she's one of the leads of Deadman's Hand, Casino of the Damned.
Mm-hmm. This is very topical because poker is pretty popular right now.
Yep, yeah, definitely. Well, it ends in a kind of a. Well, you have to see the movie because it's got a real cool ending.
What type of poker do they play in it?
Well, it's a blackjack game. I don't want to spoil it because it's kind of cool. But at the end, it's 5-card stud. Mm-hmm. And if anyone knows the history of how Bill Hickok died, he was holding Deadman's Hand. And that's why the movie's called Deadman's Hand. But again, the ending is kind of cool, and if I talk too much about it, then it's kind of spoils a little surprise.
Yeah.
But,
right.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I'm real proud of the movie, and again, I think it's a good example of what can be done for, what would be considered the cappuccino budget on a major Hollywood film.
Was this always a dream of yours to become a filmmaker?
I grew up. I mean, my dad made movies, so I was in that environment. I love the process. My whole thing when I was a real little kid was I wanted to just be a collector. I was a stamp collector. I collected comic books. I thought that would be a cool thing. Mm-hmm. But then by the time I was maybe 10 or 11, I started making my own little movies, and that was great. And then there was a point where I thought, well, I've got to make movies, and I sort of married that with my love for the genre. I mean, I love horror and sci-fi, and the only reason why I make a few sci-fi films is they're far more expensive to make, and less is more when you make a small movie. So to try to attempt to a sci-fi movie is really tough. I've made some that have worked out well, and pictures like Robot Jox, which was sort of the precursor to Transformers now, because there's a movie made whatever 15 years ago, and Robot Wars, and even the Transfer series with Tim Thomerson was kind of a cool sci-fi show that was manageable because the canvas was relatively modest, but. So I mean, unlike my father, who made pictures in different genres, he did make a few well-respected horror films. He made epics with Steve Reeves, sword and sand movies, spaghetti westerns. He was all over the place. When I finally started making movies, I just wanted to make genre films.
Mm-hmm. I know one thing we'd like to see here. Troy's a big Horror Clicks fan. Is maybe a Full Moon line of Horror Clicks. I don't know if you're familiar with the game.
No, what is it now? I'm sorry.
It's a collectible miniature game.
Okay.
Yeah, and they have Horror Clicks, and it's all horror movies and whatnot. And I think a Full Moon line would be perfect.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, no, anything that works that we can, that sort of just spreads the word. I mean, I was recently at this New York licensing show. Hopefully, things will come to that. I mean, for years I thought that Puppet Master. Now that we're about to shoot our 9th Puppet Master film. It's been around for 15 years, and I thought, wouldn't that make a cool video game? But someone's got to. Oh yeah. Someone who's got the money and who can develop that has got to come to me because I wouldn't know where to start. So we'll see what happens. But these are all, that I've had a number of people approach us in the last couple of years to do remakes, or certainly remakes of, bigger budgeted. Let's do a theatrical Puppet Master or Demonic Toys, or. And I just, maybe the time will come when that makes sense, but I'd hate to do that, and then it becomes just a bad, stupid movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Well, thank you, guys.
Yeah.
That's I appreciate it. I'll definitely tune into the show, and I want to thank everyone who's listening and who watches these movies. They're made with a lot of passion and very, very little money. So hopefully that comes through, and then. Definitely look for the convention in Little Rock. I know Little Rock's a strange place, but boy, oh boy, it's going to be going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you'll also be at the Rock and Shock this year in Worcester on October 13th.
Yeah, absolutely, Rock and Shock. There's a show in Chicago in a few weeks called Flashback Weekend. I'm doing a bunch of shows. We'll be at the San Diego Comic Convention. And so forth and so on. So we'll keep moving around.
Okay, cool. Well, maybe we'll have you back sometime before the convention.
All right. Hey, and thank you again, guys.
Yeah. We keep here for 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
Hello, this is Scott Goldberg, director of Illuminated, and you're listening to Without Your Head Radio on withoutyourhead.com.